Do you let your snakes roam the house? Probably not, but maybe you do. I do it to a certain extent, and I spoke to some of my friends who do it. Today we're talking about how to snake-proof your house. Welcome to the Green Room. I'm Bob Bledsoe. This is Maya, and behind the camera is my brother Kent. I'll tell you how to snake-proof a house. You take salt and you sprinkle it all around the perimeter of the house, and then you have your place blessed by a priest or a rabbi or a shaman. Kent, it's a snake, not a poltergeist. Plus, I'm not talking about how to keep snakes off your property. We're talking about how to make your home safe for a snake to wander around. Or a reverend could bless your house, or a witch, like a good witch, or a judge could probably even do it if you're not religious. Are you done? Yep. Great, let's jump into it. Last week, I sent a poll out to the Horde of Keepers over on Patreon because I wanted to see how much freedom they gave their snakes. So here are the results. 40% chose the option of, I have a designated area for my snakes, like a playpen or a countertop. 35% chose the option, they're either in my hands or in their enclosure. 25% chose the option, they can explore around, but I follow them. And 0% chose the option of, I open their cage in the morning and I'll probably find them eventually. What is happening up here? This is one that I have to watch. Hang on. What are you doing? You crazy girl. You are not going to be able to stay up there, are you? You're going to cause trouble, and I'm going to have to keep stopping the video. You want to see the trouble Maya's getting into? Look at this. Boom. All the way across the top. I mean, this is kind of standard for her. This is sort of what she does. Why did I choose Maya instead of one of my larger ball pythons that I actually let roam the house unsupervised? Because I fed all them. And I wasn't thinking, so they're not available. That last one was kind of an exaggeration. I open their cage in the morning and I'll probably find them eventually. But I chose all 4 of those options because those are 4 different things that I do with my different snakes, and I choose it based on their size and personality. Oh, come on. Come on, yo. All right, you're back in my hands. You've lost your roaming privileges already. What a surprise that Maya is irresponsible and lost her roaming privileges. I chose all 4 of those options because they're all different things that I do with my different snakes, and I choose it based on their size and their personality. But this video is more about the last option, the one that 0% of the Horde of Keepers clicked on. In preparation for this video, not only did I poll the Horde, I'm not going to say that phrase again. I don't like that one at all. Not only did I send a poll out to the Horde of Keepers, I also spoke to some of my friends that I know let their snakes roam because I wanted to hear stories about things that maybe they didn't think about in preparation for that and shenanigans that their snakes have gotten into. Because that's kind of fun, so let's get into that first. I'm putting you back, young lady. Here we go. I'm putting you back. I traded snakes. Maya was just going to be a problem, I think, and so I'm just going to hold Molly. All right, so first is my buddy Eric, who's not really in the reptile hobby anymore, but he used to have a red-tailed boa that was like 9 feet long, great big boa constrictor that I snake sat for once. She was a really sweet snake, but he would keep the enclosure open almost all the time, and the snake just could free roam the house. She had her heat lamp and her water dish in her enclosure, but otherwise it could just roam. I remember just opening the enclosure in the morning and then going through cupboards to try to find the snake at night, which was fun. But Eric, I just spoke with Eric and he told me that one time he was gone for a month and left the enclosure open. He had somebody else coming in and just changing waters like once a week. I doubt they were even taking the time to find the snake when they came in, but the snake had unplugged his refrigerator. So everything went bad, including a freezer full of rodents that were rotting by the time he got home. So that's a disaster. Make sure you check your plugs. He also lost her for like a month, and this was a great big snake. I mean, a 9-foot boa is massive, and it was gone for a month, and he thought for sure she had gotten out. But he found her in his underwear drawer. So she was probably hiding most of the time behind all the drawers in the dresser, you know. I don't worry too much about my adult ball pythons roaming the house because I figure they're a 7 or 8 pound snake. I'm going to find them. Well, this was way bigger than that. I don't know how much the snake weighed, but a 9-foot boa constrictor is way bigger than an adult ball python. And he lost it for a month. I'm still going to let my snakes roam, but it makes me think. I also spoke with Torrini. Many of you know her. She does awesome work in training and behavior of snakes, and she just lets her snakes roam all over the place. I mean, not all at once, but her whole house is snake-proofed, and she lets them roam. She one time lost a pretty big Bredl's python and couldn't figure out where he went. She eventually found him in somebody else's enclosure, which is the last place I would look to. I'd be looking everywhere but in the other enclosures. This one had been left open because that snake was out roaming also, and this Bredl's just decided that was the place to be. Okay, I'm just going to read what she wrote here. She says, things snakes have gone into for some reason that I didn't anticipate. Sliding patio door track. Yeah, that makes sense. Furnace closet, ceiling fan, underneath a saddle. She's got horses too. Inside a box of latex gloves, inside a folded sweatshirt, between the back of a PVC enclosure on the wall about 8 feet up. Between the back of a PVC enclosure. Oh, okay, so between the enclosure and the wall. Inside an unzipped lunchbox bag sitting on the counter, underneath a potted plant after burrowing through the soil inside the pot. Oh my gosh. And coiled around a decorative sword, real but unsharpened, mounted on the wall near the ceiling. Wow. More from Lori's notes in a bit. Yeah, you want to make sure that there's nothing sharp. Definitely unsharpened things around your snakes. I also spoke with my friend Amy, who keeps Amazon basin tree boas, which is probably my #1 bucket list species, and it's not even a python. She has a dedicated room for them, and she will let some of them out at night to just roam. She's got vines all over the ceiling attached to the enclosures and the ceiling and everything. And she says since they are a fully arboreal snake, they've never gotten to the ground. So they just kind of go all over the vines and into the enclosures and back and forth all night long. You can see videos of this on her Instagram page called Happy Basins. It's a great page. I highly recommend it. But Amy is crazy and hilarious because she said that long ago she wanted free roaming snakes in her house so bad that she would just go out in the Tucson desert and catch them and release them in her house. She had heating mats just randomly placed kind of near plants, and she would bring them food as she found them. She said that some stayed and some left. Her husband at the time would stuff a towel under the bedroom door because there was a wild king snake that kept ending up in bed with them, which I'm sure Amy thought was fantastic, but the husband wasn't as into it. She also had a bull snake that went missing for I think like 3 months, and she thought that it was just gone, and then she found it because she spilled some cranberry juice and the bull snake came out from under the refrigerator for a drink. Who knew they liked cranberry juice? So she had snakes that didn't even have enclosures. They were 100% free roam. And this is fascinating. She said that one of the snakes kept pooping in the fish tank, so she started setting out dishes of water sitting on heat mats, and all of a sudden all the snakes were potty trained, which I think is really interesting that they would prefer to go in the water. It makes sense because they don't leave their scent. Probably. That's my guess as to why they would do that, because they're not then leaving their scent everywhere. Anyway, I think at this point she just has the Amazon basin tree boas, and they all have their own enclosures and their own room, and it's fantastic. Okay, now on to the ins and outs of snake proofing your room or rooms that you're going to allow your snakes to roam. You want to have plenty of stuff in there. You want to have furniture and all kinds of things that they can hide behind. A big open room is no fun for a snake, so you want them to be able to hide behind things. They're going to sort of be explore/hiding. If you have any cupboards that they can get into, just make sure that that's safe. Either make it so that they can't get in there, or go through the cupboards and make sure they can't hurt themselves, because they do like to get into cupboards. Make sure there aren't any appliances that they can get into the inner workings of. I have a little freezer that holds the frozen rats under the inspector's enclosure here, and the back of it is kind of open, so I make sure that that's pressed against the wall so that the snakes can't get back there. And I try to keep them away from that area anyway. Speaking of mechanical workings, snakes are great at unplugging stuff, as evidenced by Eric's story about his snake unplugging the refrigerator. So if your snakes are out roaming around where your enclosures are, you might want to check that they're not unplugging thermostats and such like that. Also, if you have racks, snakes love to get in behind tubs, and if they crawl into that rack and push the tub a little bit, they can get onto that heat mat. And a lot of times, or the heat tape that's in the back of racks, a lot of times that's way hotter than it should be for a snake to be sitting on. So make sure they can't get into that. I've got Lydia Dietz trained to not go back there, but she's the only one. So I have to watch the snakes and make sure that they're not going into the rack systems. Fortunately, they all tend to want to go to the other side of the room where the furniture is, and there's a big mirror that they can get behind and such. Before we get to talking about other living creatures that might encounter your snakes in the house, let's find out what's happening in Kent's Corner. Hi,
and welcome to Kent's Corner, the only show that features me, Kent. This table right here outside is pretty much my workspace because in there is basically deadly snakes roaming around. This is pretty much like, imagine if you worked at Home Depot, just in the lumber department. And this is a pretty good job, you enjoy it, except that the manager releases werewolves every morning. So now you have to show people where the particle board is with werewolves attacking you. That's exactly what this is like.
That's not what it's like at all. For your scenario to be similar, you'd have to work at a werewolf company because you work for a place with pythons in the name, right? Plus, the werewolves would have to be completely harmless. They'd have to be like were-kittens, just little, cute. Can we finish Kent's Corner, please? Sure.
Thank you for watching Kent's Corner, and I challenge you to tell me how this is any different than working in the lumber department at Home Depot with werewolves running around.
Well, I think we covered that.
Well, I think we covered that. He's creating a condescending work environment.
I've got Stella with me now, and she can pretty much do what she wants as long as she stays on me or the ladder. She's definitely not big enough to free roam yet. Okay, let's talk about other moving creatures. Dogs and cats are a big consideration. I would say keep them away from the snake. Even if your dog or your cat would never strike the snake, animals are unpredictable, and it just takes one time for the dog to go after the snake or for the snake to go after the cat. I thought she was going to fall. Are you okay there, young lady? So it just takes one time for the snake to fall off the human. So, it just takes the one time. Now, the exception would be if you happen to be an animal trainer, like Lori Torrini. She's trained all of her dogs, and they don't bother the snakes. And she makes sure that that's a safe environment. And she has a separate room that she keeps the cats in, because cats are awful creatures. Wait, let me check my notes. Hang on. Don't say cats are awful. Okay, well, just scratch that last part then. You doing okay there, young lady? Next is human creatures. You want to make sure that anybody in the house is aware that there's a snake out, because they're like ninjas. They can really silently get under somebody's foot, unless you have a little bell for them, which doesn't seem practical. Think about a couch that you're going to sit on or shift around on. You know how sometimes couches, if you go underneath the couch, it has that flimsy material, and sometimes there's a hole torn in it? Snakes can get up into the inner workings of the couch, and when you sit down, that could cause a problem. I don't have that situation on my couch, but Kata, when she is out roaming around, she likes to go to the wall and then up the back of the couch, so her little head peeks up behind the couch. If I didn't know she was there and I sat down hard on the couch, I could pinch her in between the couch and the wall. I think about all these possible catastrophes, and then I'm very careful moving about the house when I know that I have snakes roaming. Lori added a few things that I hadn't thought of because she has a different scenario than I do. One of them is rodents. Wild rodents. I don't have them in my house, fortunately, but she lives out in the country, and she said that a snake will follow a rodent trail into little holes and all kinds of stuff, which is true. They can really squeeze themselves in, so you've got to really shore up the place. She covers up all of her floor vents with screen material, which is really smart. She has door blocks under any doors that she doesn't want the snakes to get into, like the cat room. And make sure that sharp knives are put away, anything breakable, such like that. I kind of make sure that snakes can't pull stuff off that's going to break. Now, after snake proofing the room or the house, I then make the decision based on size and personality of the snake who I'm going to let roam without constant supervision. You might be wondering how long I keep snakes out for. If it's an adult ball python and they want to just curl up and go to sleep under a couch or behind the mirror or something like that, they can be there all afternoon. My temperatures in this room are they're around 78. It's usually under 80. Right now it's not under 80. It's so hot in here, you guys. But usually it's around 78. So that's a fine temperature for them to just hang out for a few hours. If I'm going to leave the house, I usually put them away. If it's Damara, I don't necessarily, because sometimes she's fine. I know that she's going to be in the same spot when I get home, depending on how long I'm gone for, if I'm just going to the grocery store or something like that. But it just, it all depends on the snake. I used to think that I was almost kind of going overboard with letting my snakes roam, but compared to my friends, I feel like I'm pretty conservative. So I hope this video was able to help you determine whether you want to free roam your snakes and whether you're able to free roam your snakes. And if not, that's totally fine. There are tons of ways to provide enrichment for snakes without having them free roam the house. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
It's like if I worked at a Pizza Hut, and every once in a while a Bigfoot would come in and just punch me right in the neck.